Hello, fourth grade. Do you know what is going to happen next Tuesday? Well, Captain America is here because Captain America wants to tell you what will take place next week. So, next week, we are going to have an election. So many crazy things going on in the world. We have coronavirus, we have this election going on. Well, so let me tell you a little bit about elections. So next Tuesday, your families have the opportunity to go to a place and vote for our next president. So for the next week, we're going to kind of explore what does a president do? How does our government even work? And who are these people running for president? I'm sure you might have seen a couple people on the news talking about who our candidates are this year. So we're going to explore what those people do and who those people are. But today, let's start off with what do you think a president does, huh? Well, I'm Captain America and I save the world. Well, kind of save the world with the help of the Avengers. So obviously, I don't do this all by myself, kind of like the president does. So, those of you who are at home, I want you to pause this right now and write a little bit on your Google slide. What do you think a president does? And those of you in class, go ahead and do that right now and you'll have a discussion with your people. And I wanted to show you guys, I have my American shirt on today. Like I am all about America this week. Woohoo, go USA. So go ahead and take a moment and answer that question. All right? All right. Do, 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 do. All right, you've had your discussion. So now I want you guys to discuss how is a president different from a king? So as you recall from early America, the people in Europe came over to America and started the 13 colonies because they were tired of a king. Well, a king is somebody that's born into royalty and they're in charge of their country or their area. So, how is a president different from a king? And do they have different responsibilities? Because we kind of need to decide that in order to figure out how our government works. So, take a little bit and discuss with a neighbor if you're in person. And also, if you are at home, maybe talk with somebody at your home about this. But go ahead and type a little bit about how is a president different from a king? Or are they even different? All right, so election 2020. So, after you've discussed in class, you are going to find out that the president does not have as much power as many of you have thought. I'm assuming that some of you maybe wrote on your president question, presidents can declare war. Maybe you said presidents are the boss. Maybe you said presidents get to travel all over the world. Maybe you said presidents give speeches. You might have said that presidents live in the White House, but what other jobs could a president have? Maybe a president meets with other leaders from other countries. So hopefully your class had a really good discussion about what a president does or can do. But I want you to think about this, okay? Remember how the people left because the king was too powerful? Well, when George Washington was elected our first president of the United States back in the 1700s, we decided as a country, remember that Constitution and the Declaration of Independence? We decided that part of our rules will be that the president does not get all the power, okay? So our government is actually broken up into three different sections or three different branches. Think of it as our government being a tree and it has three major branches. It has one in the middle, has one going off to the side, and another going off to the other side, okay? So three different branches of government really make sure that our government runs the way that it should. And it also allows the president to have power, but not too much power. We do not want our president to be like a king where he controls everything. Remember, that's why people left Europe because the king was like, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, 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 okay? So our president, yes, he or one day she has power, but they have other powers that kind of work with them. So today you're going to read about the three different types of government, the three branches, I should say. We don't have three types. So you're going to read this, and I'm going to get us started on this. So the founding fathers of the United States wanted to ensure that one person did not have too much control over the government. Just like that King George III, we didn't want George Washington having way too much power. When they wrote the Constitution, they separated the government into three branches to kind of split the power. Each branch of the government has its job, and they work together to ensure the country runs smoothly. So I want you to think of it this way. In fourth grade, there's Mrs. Engelbrecht, there's Miss Reeder, Mrs. Dinkelman, and myself. So there's four of us in fourth grade who make it all work together, okay? So each of us are in charge of a different part of fourth grade. I'm in charge of the science and social studies. Miss Engelbrecht's in charge of the math. Miss Reeder is in charge of the spelling and the reading. And then Mrs. Dinkelman is in charge of the grammar. All of us working together make our great fourth grade nation work well. The same way with the branches of government, okay? We don't want Miss Engelbrecht to have all the power and to be in charge of all of fourth grade, although I think she would do a phenomenal job, but we don't want all that power given to her. We don't want all the power to Mrs. Engelbrecht. We are a part of a team, okay? So just like fourth grade teachers are a team, so is our government. So, the first branch you're going to read about is the legislative branch. The way that this one sticks in my mind is legislative starts with L. So, the legislative branch is actually the branch that, well, they make the laws. A lot of you thought from early on when we asked the question, what does a president do? You said they make the laws. Yes, they make the laws, but not 100% make the laws, okay? Just like the Avengers, I don't make all the laws for the Avengers, okay? So the legislative branch makes the laws. There are two parts of the legislative branch. You may have heard this especially a lot here lately in the news. There's Congress, and then there's the House of Representatives. So these two parts make up our legislative branch. The Senate has 100 senators. That means two from each state because we have 50 states. So 50 times 2 gives us 100 senators. So for Illinois, we have 2 senators that we have that are representing our state, okay? And we vote these senators in, but right now I just want you to know there's 2 from each state, okay? Then the House of Representatives has 435 people in that, okay? Each state has a different number based on how many people live there. So obviously a big state like California is going to have more people representing them, so more representatives, okay? And each representative only gets to serve for 2 years. So let's say you don't like who the representative is from Illinois right now. In 2 years, you could vote in a new person, okay? Congress also has some power to remove the president from office. So if the president's making poor choices, maybe they did something illegal, or they're just not working for America, the Congress actually has the power to be like, you are no longer the president, okay? There's a lot of steps that we have to go through to get to the point, but I want you to realize Congress has two parts, okay? Senate, House of Representatives, and they make the laws. That's the big thing that you need to take from this one. Okay, that's our first branch. The second branch is the executive branch. So this branch includes the president. So the executive branch is actually who we're going to be voting for next Tuesday. So the executive branch carries out the laws and commands the armed forces. So that's our army, our military, our National Guard. So the president is in charge of saying when we can go to war. The executive branch includes the president, the vice president, and the cabinet, okay? The president is the head of our government. The president is voted by the citizens, which is me and you and everybody else, okay? And they get to serve 4-year terms. So Mr. Trump, this is his last term. He has until the end of this year, unless he gets elected again next week. So every president has the opportunity to serve 2 terms, okay? But 1 term equals 4 years. So if they did 2 terms, how many years could a president be a president? Like Barack Obama, he got to serve 2 terms. So how many years was he our president? So I want you to think about that. Think about that math there, okay? It's a multiplication problem. So the cabinet includes people who are nominated by the president and approved by the Senate. The cabinet members advise the president and head different department. The president checks the legislative branch because he can veto laws passed by Congress. So let's say Congress says we're going to have a law that at school you have to have pizza every single day, okay? So the legislative branch comes up with this law and the president gets the law and the president's like, no, we're not having pizza every day. People are going to get tired of it. The president can veto that, which means we no longer are going to have that law, okay? The president has the choice to say yes or no to a law, but the law getting made comes from Congress. So let's say again, the Congress, which is the legislative branch, says every Friday, no school, okay? So the legislative branch would then send that law to the executive branch. The president would be like, you know what? I say yes. Yes, let's have recess every Friday and no school. Okay. So the president has the power to say yes or no to a law. They don't get to create them necessarily, but they get to say yes or no. Okay. And then the cabinet members of the executive branch are kind of like the president's friends. Okay. You want people who are working with you that you're friends with. So if I'm the president and I'm Captain America, okay, I'm going to want people in my cabinet that are close to me. Like, obviously, I don't want villains coming on my cabinet. So, somebody that would probably be on my cabinet would be, let's see, I would probably have Iron Man. I would probably have Black Panther. I want people on my side that are going to work with me and not against me. Okay, so keep that in mind. When the president picks his like friends or her friends to be the cabinet members, they want people that are going to support them, not kind of turn against them. Okay, so keep that in mind. Right. And the White House obviously is where the president lives. And then the vice president would take over if something were to happen to our president, which has happened a couple times throughout history. We've had some presidents who have passed away during their time as president. And our last branch that we have is the judicial branch. Judicial is hard to say, it's a slush mouth for me, but it contains our judges. Okay. So the judicial branch is the court system in our country, and it's the highest court in our country. So we have court in Belleville, we have a court in Illinois, but then we have the court that's over all the United States that makes like all the laws. And then if somebody ever questions something that's in the Constitution, it would sometimes be taken to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court consists of 9 judges, okay? And the 9 judges get to serve for life and they get to make the decisions that impact us as citizens, okay? The president gets to nominate these judges. So we're actually in a situation right now where a Supreme Court justice has just recently passed away and there is an opening on the court. So right now, Mr. Trump has the opportunity to nominate somebody to fill that spot. Now we have to keep in mind the person that's nominated gets to serve it for life. So obviously, Mr. Trump needs to make a good, informed decision. The person who he would be picking probably has to have some experience as a lawyer, have some experience working in the courts. We don't just want some random person in there. But we're even in a trickier spot than that. So you see, we're at an election time. So we're at this point where if Mr. Trump selects somebody to be the Supreme Court justice, we could possibly kind of change things in Washington right now. So we'll talk a little bit more later about how we have the Democrats and the Republicans and how those kind of interact with one another and they impact how decisions are made. So right now, Mr. Trump has the choice to pick that judge that's on there. Well, depending on how he picks it, depends on how our court cases could go. And we'll learn a little bit more about that later. But I just want you to know right now there is an opening because somebody did pass away that was a Supreme Court judge. All right. So the lower federal courts use the Constitution to ensure that these laws are being followed. So the judges on the Supreme Court, they don't get to just make decisions based on how they feel. A lot of their choices have to come from what the Constitution says. So obviously they have to be very, very smart and know the ins and outs of the Constitution. I know a little bit about the Constitution, but I don't know everything, okay? So, the 3 branches of government, the legislative, the judicial, and the executive branch, those 3 branches work together to ensure our country runs smoothly and decisions are made for the best interest of the people. So, that's where we step in and we vote for the people we want into each of these branches to ensure that our voices are heard because not everybody can be president, not everybody can be a senator, not everyone can be a judge, but we could vote people in that have similar beliefs like us, okay? So now that you've read this with me and we've gone through this, here's what I need you guys to do. I want you to take the time and tell me about three things under each one of these branches of government. So, for example, for legislative, I would write that they make the laws, that the legislative consists of the Senate and the House of Representatives, okay? So where would you put the president at? The president would be under the executive one. So you're basically just taking the information in those paragraphs and then telling me three facts about each one of the branches. If you forgot, you could rewatch the video or you could simply reread the passage that I had included. And if you forgot down here, I also have what you were supposed to do down here, okay? Tomorrow, Captain America is going to tell you a little bit more about how we vote and why we vote and what's the purpose of it. But hopefully you realize that the president does not have all the power. It's all three of these branches working together because just like with King George, we don't want the president having all of the power because that would be bad news bears for us. And well, that is not how America works. We have a voice in some capacity.